screen, and then I'll kind of explain how I got here. But basically, a Zoho form is going to be basically an online form, an online-based form, in which you can fill out information yourself, or you can get your clients to fill out your information for you. And the idea of it is, and I'm just working on getting my screen up here, so you shouldn't be seeing anything just yet. You should see something now. But basically, the idea of it is that you can, in an online way, as opposed to using pen and paper and that sort of thing, you can very easily collect information from your clients and have it integrated with the CRM. Now, one thing that I'll start by saying, actually, so on my screen, you should just see Zoho Forms, nothing too informative just yet. One thing I will say is some people ask me, hey, could I use Zoho Forms for my mortgage application? I just want to use it end to end and do that. You can. We've never done it, and the reason for that is just a mortgage application, it can be quite complicated, right? There's a lot of conditional rules in terms of, for example, getting a house or getting a property address for each of the last, for at least the past 36 months, for example. Zoho Forms isn't intelligent enough to kind of do those kind of checks for you. It's a bit more basic than that. So it's basic in the sense that it's just more so collecting information, not too dynamic in terms of the information that's collected. So if you're using, things out there like Finmo or Broker Binder or Flowify, I would usually say, continue using those things because they are very good at the mortgage app, and let Zoho Forms be a tool to just enhance the data that you already have in your CRM. So that's a little bit of a precursor. Today, basically what I'm going to be going through is how to create a Zoho form. So going through and actually creating one and what that looks like. And then how we can actually integrate that back to the CRM, and some kind of tricks and tips along the way to make sure that's as smooth as possible. So I'm actually going to close this window I have here, and I'm going to start from my screen now. Everyone should see Blue Mortgage, and hopefully this is familiar to most people. This is just the Blue Mortgage home screen, so you can see all the information related to your CRM and what you have in it, and this should be a very familiar page for a lot of folks. So I started here just as a starting point, but really what you'll want to do is start by going to one.zoho.com. And so this is part of the Zoho One Suite, and in a lot of these webinars, I'll explain it briefly, but not go into too much detail. If you want more detail, please reach out to me directly. But basically what Zoho One is, it gives you access to many other options, many other applications to help your business. And so Blue Mortgage focuses a lot on the CRM. By going to one.zoho.com, you can see everything else that is available to you. And the one we're going to talk about today is obviously Forms, which is right there. If you don't see Forms here, you'll have to go to the admin panel and go admin panel. And if you give it a second to load, applications on the right-hand side here. I won't go through the entire process. Once again, if you don't see it, please reach out to us. But that's just a very quick version of how, at least a starting point to get Forms showing up here. So now that it is here and you figured that part out, we'll just click it. And this will take you into Zoho Forms here. So clicking on Zoho Forms, if you haven't used it before, this is basically what you're going to see initially. So it's just going to be a blank screen prompting you to create a form. So let's just do exactly that. Just click here. There's some templates here that you can use, but actually I don't want to use any templates. I'm going to come back to blank form, and I'm just going to call this Blue Mortgage contact information. And I'll hit create. And so basically what we're doing here is creating a brand new form. And my idea of it is just I want to collect a bit more information about the contacts in my system. And so I'm going to use this form to do that for me. So when I click into here, everything here is actually fairly straightforward, and it's designed to be quite intuitive in how you would go about creating a form and integrating with the CRM, and we'll walk through all of that as we go. But this is your first page, and this is the builder here. So everything on the left-hand side of the screen is basically going to be just the fields that you need to you need to have to build the form itself. So you can come in here and you'd be able to come in and say, okay, this name here, grab it, and you can just click and drag. So it's really just that easy to get information and have it available for people to fill out. And so there's other things in here. So for my contacts, I want to bring in the address, and I want to bring in, well, make sure I get the email as well. And maybe I'll even try and record their phone number, just make sure I have an up-to-date phone number. And I think that's good for now. So let's leave it at that for now. And you just saw how really easy that was. I could just kind of click and drag, and it becomes available here. And so just like that, I made a pretty useful form for me, something that my clients can fill out and provide a bit more information about themselves. So that's the first step. And then there's a bunch of other fields here. I won't go through all of them, but there's things like a radio. So that thing is going to be almost like a series of choices people can make. I'll remove that. You can see that there's even advanced fields. If you wanted to collect some payment information, you can even do that here, or even a signature. So those are some commonly used ones. And then one that I really like, I use a lot, page break. So I come into here and this kind of divides things out. So you can see, okay, I have page 1 now, which I'm going to call name and address. And then this is going to be email and phone or something like that. So it just makes it a bit more structured in the way that you present the form to your customer. And then the only other interesting one that I like to include is I'm just going to make sure I find it here. It's the description box here. And this is basically just something that not someone would actually fill out, but somewhere you can come in and describe what you need to say. So please fill out email and phone, right? So that's simple. And now that's going to show and appear to the customer so they know that they know how to do that there. And actually, just for the heck of it, I'm going to come in here and actually put in a secondary email just because I want to record both. And as I come along here, one thing that's kind of interesting is there's different options that I can have. So if I click on the name, for example, you can see that I have things like hiding the field or disabling the field. We won't go into too much detail of what that means, but for the most part, this is more stuff that's advanced, but just the point being that there's a lot of options over here, and you can, for the address, for example, I can come in and say, okay, Canada is my default country, and then I'm going to call this one just postal code, and this one's just going to be province or whatever it is, right? So there's a lot of settings on this right-hand side, so you can customize your fields. So now that I have this form, I'm going to leave it here for now, and I think that's pretty good. There's obviously, you can imagine, there's just so much more you can do really in here, but we're going to leave that as it is for now. So now I'm going to work along the top here and just go through some of the other things that you can do within the form builder. So with the form builder, the first one here is rules. So first it's going to ask me to save, so I'll just hit save, and then I'll hit rules. So when I hit rules here, these are basically making it a bit conditional. So I was saying it's not super smart, these forms, but they can be a little bit smart. So I'm going to make one field, and the field is the main one that you use. I'm not going to go to form or page, but I'm going to show you an example of what a field rule can look like. So I'll come in, hit configure now, and I'm going to say show secondary email only if primary email is complete. So what this is basically going to do, or what I'm going to try and do, is say, hey, only show that secondary email if they put in that first email, right? It's kind of redundant to have 2 emails if they don't even have 1. So it's really super easy. It's just an if and then. So the if I'm going to say is, okay, if the primary email, so I'm going to say email, my condition is it's not empty, so someone's filled it in, then show, and then I can just come in here, secondary email. So it's really that easy. So now I've just created the form a little bit smarter, so that secondary email will only ever show up when someone puts in a primary email. So it's a little bit smarter that way. We can add that in there. That's the rules there. I'll continue along the top into settings. There's a ton of settings here, and I won't go into all of them like I did with the rules, but I'll hit on the main kind of important ones. So coming in here, I'd say the top 5 are really what you want to focus on. So general, it's things that you would expect, maybe the date, format, time zone, things like the CRM, the basic stuff there. Maybe a favicon, that's basically what will show up here in your browser when people click it, and different things like that. Acknowledgement is basically what's going to happen when someone completes the form. So you can choose to have, a message here, or you can have them redirect maybe to your website or something like that. And so you can do that here. So that's the acknowledgements and redirects. Email notification is the third one down. So basically the idea is it says, hey, what's going to happen when a response, so an email notification that can get sent out when someone actually fills out the form itself. So to show you how you can do that, you could say, okay, I want it so that whenever a response is added, so when someone fills out that application, I'm going to send out a notification to owner, right? And so basically what I can do here is I can describe the email that needs to get sent, and I can choose who it actually goes to. So I can say, okay, whenever a form is filled out, I'm going to have a message that says, hi, hi, Blue Mortgage, because this is going to the Blue Mortgage email. And then I can come into here and I can say first name, use the merge tag. And then I use the merge tag again. So I'm just using these things in the top right corner here. Let's say field labels. And I'm going to say my last name here, copy. And then I'll paste that in. So I can say first name, last name has just completed the online form. And then I'm going to, in that email, attach the submission as a PDF and hit save. So now, once again, you can just see how easy these types of things are. Now, whenever someone completes that form, Mr. Blue Mortgage is going to automatically receive an email with this little message plus an actual copy of the submission here. If I continue through, you can do the same with an SMS. You could even get an SMS message as people complete it. And then I was saying the top 5, and so then the last one here is just basically giving your users the option to save and try again later, save and resume later. And so if I say, okay, and then you can change the name. So save and resume later. Maybe that's what you want to do. And what's going to happen is that if I check in this box, they hit save, they're going to get a link that they can continue their form later. And I'll hit save. So that's useful if you have a very long form. So those are kind of the top 5 there. And then continuing through themes, I'm not going to spend any time on because it's not super technical. It's just more design and making sure your templates look the way you want it to. So you have different options here, or you can completely customize it by clicking this. What is worthwhile is spending a little bit of time on the share area here. So basically the share area is going to be the area where you can actually send it to your customers. So my favorite way of doing it is just, simple like this. You can have a form permalink. I could copy this exactly, or I could choose to shorten the URL, and we get a shorter one here that you can just copy, paste into an email. And if you see and I click it, and this is starting to bring it all together, you can see that this opens up that exact form that I created with the save and resume later and all of that. So we'll actually complete the form in just a second, but this is starting to see how you can start sharing it and what it's going to look like. So that's what we can do in terms of sharing the permalink. The other thing that a lot of folks use is actually embedding it in their website. So this is usually where you want to involve a web developer if you're working with someone. If not, we have a lot of great folks that we know that are excellent web developers if you're looking to build out your website a little bit more. So please get in touch if you're curious about that. But if you have something already set up, there are some other options here. As you can see, it's a bit more code based, and I don't even know what half of this means, and you don't have to use it. It's more so something that you can just copy and paste, send to your web developer, and they can embed it actually in your website. So that'll be something that actually exists on your website and you can collect leads from, for example. And so then finally, integrations. This is really where a lot of the fun exists. So we were able to come in here and say, okay, I collected all this information. Great, I love it. But this is my favorite part of actually doing something with it. And so when I come in here, I can come in and I can say, I want to integrate my form that I just created with the CRM, and that's the default. You can see there's a lot of other options actually, so it's quite extensive in what you can do. But the idea of it is based on the Zoho CRM. So I'll show the CRM, but the same idea can be applied to any of these other apps that you might be using. If you aren't familiar with these apps, but you're curious, once again, let me know. They're all included up to here, all the Zoho ones in your subscription. So if you're curious at all, please do let me know. So we're talking about Zoho CRM here, and this is bringing it back to the base CRM, the Blue Mortgage CRM that everyone is familiar with. So what I'll do is I'll just hit integrate. Start there, keeps it super simple. Come into here, and you can see that exactly as I have it here, you can see mortgage, borrowers, partners, lenders. I have exactly the same here, right? So I can see mortgage, borrowers, partners is actually a custom module, so that's down here. But you can see all those things exactly as I have it in the CRM coming through within Zoho Forms. So pretty cool how they can connect like that. So for this, I'm going to say borrowers because I want to update my borrowers. And layout doesn't matter so much, but let's just do standard there. And so this is the fun part where I can come through here and I can map everything. So I can say, okay, last name goes to last name. First name goes to first name. And you can see even as I'm coming through here, you can have other useful things as well. So I'll use email goes to email. And what I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. Secondary goes to secondary. Mobile goes to phone, right? So it's very straightforward of how I can map all of these things. And the thing that I was showing you real quick, maybe I'll bring up first name again. I'll show the first name. You can see when I had first name, I could actually even bring in like the IP address and the refer name. So I have a lot more things that are available to me that can immediately come into my CRM. So the IP address of the client, if that's something that you should track. Not a lot of people do, but that becomes available. And then, other things here too, right? So I can say this, the street goes to the street, right? And I can just I won't do all of them. Maybe I'll just do country and then I'll leave it at that. Country. So I've done my mapping. So that's the first part of the integration. And so that's going to happen. And then just basically here, I have some options here. So what I always suggest that you actually do is do this one, automations and process management. That basically means, hey, if I have any workflows set up, have that happen. And then maybe I want to tag records a certain way. I don't need to do that, but that's an option, so I can do that. And I could also, I like doing upsert record. So what upsert means is that if the person already exists, update them. If they don't exist, just create a brand new one. And so to tell if someone already exists, you need an upsert field. And what we'll do in this case is email. So basically that's what's going to happen is when someone fills in their email, the system will look in the CRM, see if that email exists. If so, it updates them. If it doesn't exist, it creates a brand new person. So that's how we can do it, and we'll hit done. And then the last thing that I like to do, this here. So basically, I want to include attachments in the CRM. I like doing this a lot. So in the CRM, I can basically get a PDF copy of the form and have it in my CRM. And then the final step, we just hit integrate. So just like that, once again, it's very straightforward. I can get all those responses, pop it into the CRM, and have it update automatically. And so the last thing that I'll show, this is quite a bit advanced, but I like to show it just because I think it's so cool, is something called field aliases. So let's say we're going through here and I already have someone in my system. So I'm saying, you know what? I don't want them to have to fill out their email again or whatever it is. I want it to just automatically populate in the form. Sounds pretty difficult to do, but it's possible within the Zoho form, which is really, really cool. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to come into here and we're going to create what's called a field alias. So I'm back in settings. We only talked about the top 5, but I'm going to skip all the way down to field alias. Come into here and I can choose, and I can come in here and say, okay, for my field alias, I want to choose email. So the email field, I'm going to create an alias for. So what I'm just going to call is the exact same thing. It can be whatever you want, but it just can't have any spaces. So I'm just going to call it email there. So hit save. So really that was the first step. It's as easy as that. The next thing that we're going to do then is we're going to come into the CRM. I'm going to click on a random borrower, maybe Jack Frost here. And I'm going to add a link in the left-hand side here. So this is link for Zoho Form. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the link that this provided me. So I'm going to go back over to the share and grab this shortened URL, copy, pop it into here. And then the tricky part is, and this part, this you'll just have to know from the knowledge, and we can definitely help you out with this, is going email equals, and then what I want is the email from my borrower. Email. I'll hit save. So now this link was created successfully. And so now if I click into this, you can see that if I look up here, it's exactly that URL that I had before. But now I have this email, and I have a bunch of information about them. So that's actually how the system knows, or how the Zoho form knows what to put in, is based on what was appended on the URL. And so then just like that, it was really that easy, and I hit next. Oh, it's going to ask me for a last name, so I'll just say Frost because I know this was Jack Frost. I can see there it is. That email is automatically created for me, right? So it's pretty cool that you can actually get information from the CRM, send a link to someone, and it's going to dynamically populate their form based on information that you already know. So just to, I guess, do another one just for fun, we could also come in here and say, settings, under field alias. I'm going to do another one. Let's do last name is going to be last name with no spaces. There we go, last name. And then in my link, I'm going to, can I edit my link? Yep, edit. I'm going to do and, so add another one, last name equals, and then we're going to say last name. Save. So looks like it was saved. And now once again, I can click that link. And look, that Frost is automatically populated. I hit next. There's Blue Mortgage implement. And if you remember before, just for fun, let's just see if I take this out, secondary email goes away. And so just like that, I basically created a brand new form that's going to update Jack Frost. I know it's going to update Jack Frost because I forced it to be that way based on a link and field alias. And I'm going to collect a lot more information about him, his address, his phone number, his secondary email, all these things that I might want to do to build out my database. I can even not even just use it as a share link like I showed, but I could even embed it in my website. So there's really a ton of application with Zoho Forms. This is a very quick version to show you the different features and the different automations that you can do. But basically, that's where I'd start. If you're interested in Zoho Forms, that's where I'd start. And I think there's a lot more powerful things you can do, but I think this was a really good overview to get people started. So with that, I'll pause there. I blocked off half an hour for this. And so basically I got about 3 minutes left. So my apologies for rambling a bit there. But basically I'll stop sharing and I'll open it up to any questions that people have. Please use the Q&A in the webinar. If you don't have any or don't feel comfortable using the webinar, I'll also open my email. You can reach me at thall@blueroot.ca, and I can answer your questions there. All right, no questions so far. So I'm going to continue monitoring the Q&A and as well as my own email, thall@blueroot.ca. I'll keep this line open for another 3 minutes, right until the bottom of the hour at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you have any questions between now and then, please do let me know. Otherwise, right at 1:30, I'll end the webinar. But I do want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining. I hope this was useful. I think there's a lot of cool things with Zoho Forms. So any questions at all, please reach me, thall@blueroot.ca. Thanks so much.